Hey, before you scroll to the next thing, just stop for a second and answer honestly. What if tomorrow everything you're afraid of losing, your money, your job, that kind of defines you, your health that's holding up right now, the way people see you, simply vanished, gone, poof, and yet you still woke up feeling completely free inside? Not the freedom written on paper or in laws. The kind no one can confiscate because it lives in your head. Now imagine discovering that kind of freedom while you're literally someone else's property. Welcome to Rome, 1st century AD. The center of the known world. Marble temples gleaming under the Mediterranean sun, crowds roaring in the arena, the air thick with incense, sweat, iron, and fresh blood. Rome ruled everything, armies, trade routes, entire peoples. But the whole empire rested on chains. Almost 1 in 3 people walking those streets was enslaved. One of them was called acquired. Epictetus. He owned nothing, not even his own body. And yet 2,000 years later, emperors wrote private journals inspired by him. Soldiers carried his words in their packs to survive battles. CEOs on the verge of breakdown read him to stay sane. Prisoners in solitary cells recited lines to keep from losing their minds. This isn't just some dusty old biography. It's the story of how the toughest, most practical philosophy ever was born in the middle of total oppression. And by the end of this video, you might catch yourself thinking something that stings a little. Maybe right now, with my smartphone, my rights, my choices, I'm actually less free than that limping slave walking the streets of ancient Rome. To really get why Epictetus still lands so hard today, we have to step into the world that tried to crush him. Rome wasn't just a city, it was a massive, merciless machine that never stopped running. It sucked gold out of mines in Hispania, grain from the fields of Egypt, silk that traveled thousands of miles across deserts. But the real fuel: human bodies. Enslaved people scrubbed senators' villas until they shone, taught Latin and philosophy to elite kids, rode warships until their hands were raw meat, dug silver in Dacian mines, and died in the circus for the crowd's entertainment. They were line items on a ledger, valued for output, disposable when broken. Epictetus was born in Phrygia, a region that's now central Turkey. No exact birth date. History doesn't waste ink on the powerless. Probably around 50 AD. As a child or young teen, he was shipped to Rome and sold to Epaphroditus, a former slave who climbed the ladder to become Emperor Nero's personal secretary. Epaphroditus had the emperor's ear. He could whisper advice, open doors, or slam them shut. Epictetus, he was at the very bottom of the ladder. But here's the twist that changes everything. With his master's permission, maybe out of vanity, maybe to look cultured, Epictetus started attending lectures by Musonius Rufus, one of the leading Stoics of the time. Musonius taught that virtue, courage, justice, self-control, wisdom mattered more than comfort, wealth, or status. While other slaves and freedmen chased favors or scraps of power, Epictetus trained his mind the way a gladiator trains his body. He kept asking himself, does this depend on me? Or on things outside my control? At first it was just mental drills. Soon it became daily survival gear. Picture the Palatine Hill. Palaces dripping in bright colours, imported silks, fountains spilling fresh water, musicians rehearsing, courtiers plotting their next move up the ladder. Now, go down to the servant quarters below. Narrow corridors, dim lamplight, air heavy with constant anxiety and fear. That's where Epictetus lived, slept, and thought. There's this famous story, passed down by ancient writers like Arrian and referenced by others, that defines the man. One day his master Epaphroditus, maybe in a fit of anger or just testing boundaries, grabbed Epictetus's leg and started twisting it, slowly, hard. Anyone else would have screamed, tried to pull away. Epictetus stayed calm. He said quietly, "If you keep doing that, you'll break it." The master ignored him, twisted harder. The bone cracked, snapped. And Epictetus, still in the same even tone, "See, didn't I tell you it would break?" That wasn't bravado. It wasn't showing off toughness. He had rehearsed that reaction in his mind countless times. The body could be destroyed. That was reality. But his judgment, his attitude towards the pain, no one could take that. From that day on, he limped for life. But he had grasped something brutal and liberating. Physical pain is often unavoidable. Suffering is optional. Suffering happens when we judge the pain as terrible, unfair, unbearable. And that judgment, that's ours to choose. He started living it every single day. Years went by. Nero was deposed and killed himself. Epaphroditus, tied to the old regime, was eventually executed. Epictetus gained his freedom, probably bought or granted. For the first time, he could teach openly in Rome. Students started showing up. His style was plain, direct. No rhetorical fireworks. He didn't promise riches, mystical secrets, or easy happiness. He promised discipline, clarity, peace earned through daily effort. Then the hammer fell. In 89 AD, Emperor Domitian, paranoid about independent thinkers, issued a decree expelling philosophers from Italy. No trial. No appeal. Just leave. Everything he had built in Rome, students, routine, reputation, disappeared overnight. Another total loss. Most people would see that as rock bottom. Epictetus saw it as a change of scenery. Limping, older now, he made his way to Nicopolis in Greece. No cursing fate, no whining about injustice, and he just started over. That alone shows the power of his philosophy. When the external world collapses, the inner one stays standing. In Nicopolis, Epictetus set up his school. No grand temple, no fancy campus, just people gathering outdoors, asking relentless questions, brutally examining their own minds. He hammered the dichotomy of control like a mantra, straight from the Enchiridion, the little handbook Arrian compiled from his lectures. Of things, some are in our power, others are not. In our power are opinion, impulse, desire, aversion. In short, whatever is our own doing. Not in our power, body, property, reputation, public offices. Whatever is not our own doing. He kept repeating, if you hitch your peace to things you can't control, the weather, other people's opinions, whether the market goes up or down, you sign up for constant misery. Anchor it to your character, your virtue, the way you respond to what happens. And no emperor, no crisis, no online pylon can bankrupt you. Students travelled long distances to hear him. Even the future Emperor Hadrian showed up once. Think about the irony. A former limping slave teaching real sovereignty to the future rulers of the empire. He wasn't teaching emotional suppression, and he was teaching freedom from being a slave to your emotions. One of his most quoted lines, also from the Enchiridion, "It's not things that disturb us, but our opinions about them." Practical example he gave. Someone insults you on the street. The insult is external, the anger that flares up inside. That's your opinion about the insult. Change the opinion. This says more about him than me, and the anger fades. Another classic one. Imagine a cup falling and breaking. Do you get upset? Why? Because you judge that the cup shouldn't break. But cups break. That's their nature. Accept it, and no suffering. Apply it to your boss yelling, traffic jams, a friend's betrayal. The event happens. The suffering depends on how you interpret it. Of course, not everyone buys this today. Critics say, Stoicism promotes passivity. Just accept everything quietly instead of fighting injustice. It's a fair question to raise, but Epictetus wasn't passive. He used that clarity to act smarter. Don't waste energy on useless rage. Focus on what you can actually change. Your own conduct, your ethical choices. It's not giving up on the world, it's stepping into it with clear eyes, without being jerked around by fear or anger. Epictetus never wrote a single word himself. His students saved everything. Arrian turned the lectures into the Discourses, 4 books, and boiled them down into the Enchiridion, a pocket manual that became an ancient bestseller. Marcus Aurelius, emperor during wars and plagues, read and reread Epictetus in his meditations. Whole passages echo his ideas. Roman soldiers carried the Enchiridion into battle. Political prisoners in the Middle Ages and the 20th century memorized lines to stay unbroken. In the 20th century, psychologists like Albert Ellis and Aaron Beck took the core logic, it's not the event, it's your belief about the event, and built cognitive behavioral therapy, basically Epictetus with the scientific method. And us today? We lose it over notifications, cancel culture, perfect Instagram lives, fear of losing status. Meanwhile, a guy whose leg was snapped without him losing his cool left us a roadmap to keep our heads straight. Real freedom isn't handed out. You claim it. Every day. Quietly. Inside. So here's my real ask. Pick one thing that's been eating at you lately, a nasty fight, a project that bombed, a financial hit, health scare, whatever. Sit for 2 minutes and ask, what part of this is actually in my control? What isn't? How would Epictetus rewrite my take on it? Drop it in the comments. I genuinely want to read your stories. What shifted when you tried it? What clicked? If this hit home and you want to keep going, from Socrates in the streets of Athens to Marcus Aurelius scribbling reflections in a tent on the empire's edge, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. History isn't dust on old books, and it's a toolbox waiting to be used, and sometimes the most powerful teacher in the world just happened to limp a little when he walked.